Over the years, we've had a chance to talk with her one-on-one about the case, what she wants, and her message to the community.
And so God has taught me to stand. There's a scripture in Ephesians that says, stand, and after you have done everything to stand, you keep standing. And Curtis, that's what I do every day. I have people say, I don't understand how you're still standing with everything that's being said about you, everything that people are doing to you, everything you're being accused of. It's God. God gives me strength. And when you know you've not done these things, and when you know that you're not this horrible person that they accuse you of being, it's easier to stand. Because ultimately, just like God vindicated me and I was declared the winner of that 2010 race, all the way 18 months later in 2012, just like he did it then, I'm crazy enough to believe, and my faith is strong enough to believe that no matter what they do to me, no matter what they charge me with, that in the end, that my God will vindicate me because he knows that I haven't done anything wrong.
Tracie Hunter has maintained her innocence all along. The claim that she helped her brother with a county job, she says just didn't happen.
I violated no laws. I did not secure a public contract. I did not secure employment for my brother, who worked for the court for about 7 years before I was elected judge. Then they need to drop these unrighteous and I believe unlawful charges against me.
Many of the people you see out here have stood with Hunter for nearly 10 years. From the election to the juvenile court that was stained with controversy, to a trial that at one time had Hunter facing 9 separate charges.
It's very humbling, and I attribute this to what I call the God factor, that God has literally been at the center of everything that's going on. That's why 10 years later, 5 years later, that you still see a groundswell of support.
Her supporters say Hunter was targeted since the election, and she agrees.
That is a travesty of justice. It's a miscarriage of justice, and the only way to right this wrong is to dismiss the charges against me that never should have been brought in the first place.
Her supporters have not backed down.
WLWT News 5's John London has the allegations being tossed around from both sides.
Some of her key supporters have asked to meet with Sheriff Jim Neal, Bishop Bobby Hilton for one.
Because we just want to be clear on what can be done, what cannot be done. We are very concerned about the well-being and the health of Judge Hunter.
According to Hilton, who has visited her, she is in pain due to the way she was removed from the courtroom after sentencing on Monday. Hasn't been able to use the phone, but the sheriff's spokesman tells me that was a technical glitch and it has now been worked out. In the meantime, those close to her do not appreciate Prosecutor Joe Deters calling her, quote, a dumpster fire. Pastor Leslie Jones has known Hunter for more than 30 years. She was in court as Judge Patrick Dinkelacker ordered her to jail. She protested with others in front of his home Monday evening. She did the same in front of former Judge Norbert Nadel's home the next night. She says the former judge's character is above reproach.
We see innocent people go to jail every day and then convictions be overturned. And I believe her to be a woman who, if she did something wrong, would say that. She doesn't feel she's done anything wrong. Exoneration is what she's seeking. And I believe that if it means that she has to see it all the way through, she will, because she's a woman of conviction.
For the community's sake, for all of our sake, let's shut this craziness down.
Well, you just saw Bishop Bobby Hilton right there, and he's staying in very close contact with Hunter while she's behind bars. Now, he tells us, quote, Hunter holds no animosity against the deputy sheriff who dragged her from the courtroom. She does not believe that there was any intent to hurt her and appreciates how she was treated after that unfortunate event, end quote.
This was totally an injustice. We all know it. It was all political. Judge Hunter is a political prisoner.
Now, that was State Senator Cecil Thomas speaking up for Tracie Hunter. Now, we should point out that Tracie Hunter is also a pastor at a West Side church.
We did see a lot of her constituents at the different rallies that we've seen across the city.
Mm-hmm.
We want justice! When do we want it? Now!
You know, Curtis, I find it so interesting to understand the legality behind it all, because there's just so many different perspectives. And of course, we'll continue to follow this story as it moves on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us.
The call for selective spending comes as downtown thrums with an annual excitement. From the shore to the square, there's a defining vibe.
This is the one weekend where Cincinnati comes alive. It becomes a major metropolitan city, and there's diversity.
Julian Rogers, J-Raj to any and all, sees it as a strength. He coordinates Cincy Soul, the Black Taste, all weekend. 100 food and retail vendors, a big tent approach to life in the city.
We want you to come down. Don't stay away from downtown.
Thousands of these flyers are part of this weekend's environment. A declarative, do not shop or eat downtown, only at Black-owned shops and restaurants. The Cincinnati Music Festival attracts upwards of 80,000 people, many from other parts of the country. Most are not plugged into the plight of former Judge Tracie Hunter. State Senator Cecil Thomas believes it's important to inform them about it and to ratchet up the pressure by whatever pocketbook persuasion they can muster.
I'd rather see our city grow and continue to grow. However, this is setting us back.
The economic impact of the Cincinnati Music Festival is roughly $100 million. This shirt wasn't made for the protest, but it succinctly states what Hunter's supporters are emphasizing. Downtown restaurant owners we contacted aren't touching this with the proverbial 10-foot pole, at least not right now, as the Hunter jailing retains intensity.
This was our compromise. Some people wanted to boycott. We said instead of boycotting, what we do is we turn it to a positive and we support the businesses, the small businesses that are going to be down this weekend.
And Hunter's supporters are setting up a booth at Fountain Square right now, and they'll be here as well all weekend distributing those flyers saying spend at black businesses and stay away from the rest. Reporting live outside Paul Brown Stadium, John London, WLWT.
Joining us right now is Jennifer Branch, civil rights attorney and co-counsel for Tracie Hunter. Jennifer, thanks for joining us at Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland. I'm glad to be on to talk about what happened to Tracie today.
So folks have been sending me information, and I've been reading stories, and this has been going on for 5 years. Now, what is this confidential document she was accused of mishandling, and how does that result in a jail sentence?
Yeah, there is no document. They never introduced a single document into evidence, and it is a miscarriage of justice. She did not commit any crime, and the crime that they accused her of committing was handing a document to her brother who was being fired. That didn't happen. She didn't commit a crime, and she has been appealing this for 5 years. She did nothing at all, and she got thrown in jail today for 6 months. It's an outrage.
So let's take folks back. When she won, it was a very controversial race that she won, and there were those who were angry that she actually prevailed in that election, correct?
Yeah, you can say everybody was angry. In 2010, she ran in a Democratic primary for Hamilton County Juvenile Court judge. The Democrats did not endorse her. They opposed her. She won the primary. She ran in the general election. She ran against the Republican judge. And in that race, there were several hundred votes that never got counted. And she called me 10 days after the election in November of 2010, and I've been representing her ever since. We were able to go to court. It took a year and a half, but eventually the federal court said, count those votes. And when they were counted, it turned out that she had won by 74 votes. It's a reminder that every vote counts, and you got to count them all. She got on the bench in May of 2012 and changed things in Hamilton County Juvenile Court. She wouldn't let children be shackled in her courtroom. She used her discretion to say that juveniles should not be charged as adults, and she made changes in evening the playing field for children so that they would get evidence before trial, what we call discovery. She made a lot of changes, and she made a lot of people mad. And I think that's why she ended up in jail today.
And so she fought this thing for 5 years. First of all, how has this impacted her life, her career? With also going to jail, how's this impacted her life moving forward?
Well, when she was convicted in October of 2014, at that point, the Supreme Court of Ohio took away her law license. She's not been able to be a lawyer. She's not been able to make a living since before she was indicted. And she has not been able to have any peace the last 5 years because since her conviction, we were able to go to the appeals court, we lost. We went to the Supreme Court, we lost. We went to federal court. And at that point, we won. And we had a habeas case pending. And every day that case was pending for the last 3 years, she woke up every morning not knowing if today was the day there'd be a decision. And today was the day she'd lose and have to go to jail. It's been devastating to live a life like that, especially when you didn't commit a crime.
All right, then. Well, first of all, certainly extend our best. There are people there who are upset. They're talking about issuing protests across Cincinnati. We certainly will be following to see what happens next, Jennifer. We sure appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for your interest.
Absolutely, I question this conviction.
Faced with a very real prospect of spending 6 months in jail, Tracie Hunter pulled no punches during an interview today that lasted nearly an hour.
You don't believe that you committed a crime?
No, I did not commit a crime.
In 2010, Hunter became the first African American elected to Hamilton County's juvenile court. 5 years ago, a jury convicted her of illegally helping her brother keep his job. But Hunter says the charge, designed to prevent public officials from hiring loved ones, was wrong to begin with.
That's what this statute is designed to cover. I didn't do any of this.
Federal Judge Timothy Black, who was nominated to the court by President Obama, recently ruled Hunter's conviction was appropriate. Black cited, quote, strong evidence supporting the jury's verdict. It's evidence Hunter still disputes.
Because there is no evidence, because I didn't break any laws here.
Hunter told me the case against her seemed to be stacked from the start. She's convinced the jury selection process and the trial itself were rigged for two reasons.
It was political, and absolutely it was racially motivated.
But now, after waiting 2 years for Judge Black's ruling, Hunter could soon end up in a cell at the Hamilton County Justice Center.
Are you concerned for your safety if you do end up in jail? Talk about that.
Todd, I've been concerned for my safety since 2010. I've absolutely been concerned for my physical safety in jail.
Her concern stems from what Hunter claims was a case orchestrated to make her lose. She says she'll make sure she's in good physical condition before spending a single day in jail.
And I just want to make sure that when I go in, that no one is able to do anything harmful to me, or if they do, that persons will know that something happened to me.
Well, Judge Hunter is also a pastor at a church in Western Hills, and she told me today in her first TV interview in at least 5 years that she remains deeply committed to her faith and believes God continues to have a purpose for her. Todd Dykes, WWT News 5.